This conference will
And
now be recorded.
the party to leave was moose steak and lobster, because his son-in-law had a lobster quota, so it was pretty cool. Yeah. So bring back council some moose steaks there, Michael.
There we go. 7 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order, and you know, this is working out well with the online meetings and hybrid meetings that are taking place now that Michael can join us from wherever he is up there, and that's good. Thank you very much for doing that. So, Ed, was there anyone registered for open forum, Lindsay?
No, Mayor Woodbury, not tonight.
Okay, thank you. And now we have a public meeting, and let's see, I'll get the right piece of paper here first. No, just trying to pull up the notice. And as you can notice how good I am at all this stuff. Okay, here we go. So this is a public meeting concerning proposed zoning bylaw amendment pursuant to section 34 of the Planning Act. It is for one file, and that is, can't see it here.
It's C25-21, Jackie Pennings, concession 19, lot 24 and lot 25, geographic township of Egremont.
Okay, thank you. Purpose of this proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to consider a zoning bylaw amendment application to permit a garden suite for a period of up to 20 years to be located on the subject property. And the effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment would be to change the zoning symbol on a portion of the property from agriculture A1 to agriculture exception to allow for garden suite on the property. Any person or public body is entitled to attend the public meeting and make written or oral submissions in support of or in opposition to any of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. Written comments should be submitted to the clerk, Lindsay Green. If a person or public body does not make an oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Southgate before the zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision to the Council of the Township of Southgate, appeal the decision of the Council of the Township of Southgate to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In addition, they may not be able added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless in opinion of board there's reasonable grounds to do so. Well, I hope I don't have to read too much more tonight, because you see how I'm doing already. Normal, right? Okay. Can I have confirmation from the clerk the proper notice was given?
Yes, Mayor Woodbury, proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Okay, thank you. I'll now ask our planner, Clint Strudwick, to review correspondence received from commenting agencies. Clint?
Thank you very much, Mayor Woodbury. The first comment I have is from the County of Grey, and they indicate, provided the proposed garden suite can be adequately serviced and is designed to be portable, county staff have no concerns with the subject zoning bylaw amendment application. The next comments are from the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, and they indicate that the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is acceptable to the SVCA staff. I'm just looking here, yep, okay. Next comment then is the Public Works Department. They indicate a safe access can be provided. It's a rural asphalt road standard. A road widening would not be required, but it is a load restricted road. And that's all the comments from them. And then we have a comment from Marcia Jackson and Carl Gilbert as members of the public. And they indicate, we've received notice of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment to permit a garden suite and are writing as a neighbor to this property to express our complete support of this amendment. As local property managers, we are very aware of the current housing shortage and difficulty with affordability in the current housing market, and hope we can see more options considered by the municipality of Southgate to allow for more affordable housing. It was outlined in the notice we received from the municipality that we can request to be notified of the decision on this proposal, and we would be interested in receiving that information. And that is all of the public and agency comments received that I have available.
Thank you. That's quite the letter of support too. We don't get many of that good, so that's really nice to see. Is there any questions or discussion from council at this time? Barbara?
Thank you, Chair Woodbury, and through you, good evening. I did have a question about the county comments, Clinton. I don't recall them actually outlining the recommendation of looking at more permanent additional suites in ancillary buildings. Specifically, maybe they just highlighted it differently. Given the shortage of housing and affordable housing, attainable housing, has this option been explored by the Pennings? And if they proceed with the garden suite, would that prohibit any additional suites in ancillary buildings or a secondary unit on the house?
Okay, so two things there. So the first is the more permanent structure. Our official plan doesn't permit that, what the county is suggesting. Our official plan permits it subject to it being in an additional, if they want to make it permanent as part of the secondary units policies or whatever, it has to be in an existing structure. So there has to be an existing garage or something like that, and then you convert it and have a loft above it or what have you. That is fine, but to create a whole second house is not fine unless you're going to make it a temporary structure like they're proposing. Okay, that's not, they're two different things. One is within an existing structure, and the other one is a brand new house meant for nothing else. So that's the first question. And the second one is the legislation only provides for one secondary unit. It doesn't apply for more than one. Okay?
Thank you. And I may have worded it incorrectly. I did realize that the secondary suite would have to be in an existing auxiliary structure. But you've answered my question about whether or not they would be able to have both in the future. So one will preclude the other. Thank you very much.
Okay. Martin? You're muted. First one of the night. You win.
I'll probably donate a lot of money at the end of the year. Clinton, how are you tonight?
I'm well, thank you.
Good. Just kind of piggybacking on Councillor DeBreen's question. The Grey County report did have a question whether it was permanent or portable, yet they do have a septic installation site plan in the package that you were given. So where's is there a fine line between that? Like, how does that work? I realize it can only have one garden suite, but having a septic makes it permanent, doesn't it? I'm just being...
No.
No?
Because whether it's portable or whether it's permanent, it's still required to have servicing, and that servicing is the well and a septic system.
Okay. So there's, yeah, okay. Well, I'm perfectly okay with this because it's needed, the housing. So no, that was just a query. So thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Not seeing any more questions at this point. I'll now ask if the applicant or agent is present. Please identify yourself by stating your name for the record. And would you like to make any representations on your application?
Hi, it's Jackie Pennings.
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, just listening along here, and I have no questions. If you have any, then that's great. Otherwise, I'll just continue listening.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for being here. Is there anyone present that would like to make a submission in support of this?
Hand me the cloth.
Not hearing any. Is there anyone present that would like to make a submission in opposition to this application? And that's pretty quiet too. Are there any further questions from council? And I don't see any. So then I declare this portion of the public meeting is adjourned at 7:11. So that was pretty painless, Jackie. So thank you. And Clint can carry on with his part of this.
Thank you for your time.
Oh, no problems. Next, we have a motion moved by Martin, seconded by Jim, that we have confirmed the agenda as amended, and I understand there's further amendments. Lindsay, would you like to cover that, please?
Yes, if council would be okay. I'm just trying to find. I have it here. Sorry. So if we had an amendment to the motion, be it resolved that council confirm the agenda as amended to include a revised Schedule A to Bylaw 2021-137, which is the Wilder Lake Subdivision Zoning Bylaw Amendment, and to also add Bylaw 2021-151. It's an assignment and assumption agreement for Petawawa Biofuel LP for their purchase in the Eco Park, and that would fall under Section 9 Bylaw.
Okay. So I'm just going to make my note here that there's going to be like another 9.2.
Yeah.
Okay. Are the mover and seconder okay with that? That's Martin and Jim. Martin? Yeah. And Jim? You're good? Okay. Any discussion? Okay. Is anyone opposed to that motion? And that is passed. So thank you. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Brian?
Thank you, Mr. I was going to say Mr. Warden. I've seen him so much in the last few days. Although you'd make a good warden too. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm going to declare a pecuniary interest and related to report number 9.1. Pages 131 to 135, which is bylaw number 2021-137, related to the Wilders Lake development. The reason for the declaration is the applicant is a family member of mine. And I've filed the paperwork with the clerk ahead of time. How about that?
Yeah. You should be getting pretty good at that now. Okay, thank you. And if anyone else has declaration, you can declare now or at any time through the meeting. So thank you. Adoption of the minutes. We have a motion moved by Brian and seconded by Jason for the October 6th minutes. Any discussion on that? Okay, not seeing anyone. Is anyone opposed to this motion? And that is carried. Next, we can move into report municipal officers. 8.1 is Lindsay. Motion 8.11 is the First Nations Land Acknowledgement Implementation Policy. Moved by Jim, seconded by Barbara. Lindsay, did you want to say anything about this?
Not too much. Second shot at this one now. So I think this wording is a lot better. I had quite a few versions and lots of help from some other people to help bring this forward and get it right. So I think this wording gets it done, but I'll take any comments and questions.
Okay, thank you. And yes, I was very pleased when I read it, and we'll be seeking coaching on proper pronunciation. So anyone else have any questions or comments? Brian.
Thank you. Just real quickly, I want to express my appreciation to Lindsay and other staff for their help on this one. It's not an easy one, but I think we've come to a real good version, shall we say. And I think it'll work very nicely for what we're looking for. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Any other comments, Martin? And then Jason.
Yeah, just a comment. I did state last council meeting that I was quite ignorant of some of the other native people around this part of the world. So it was good to see them included. And I know it says in the report that that it's only for council meetings and the inaugurations, but I think just comment, this should be, I'm going to print it just because you never know where we're going to be doing special things for the community, where you like at Remembrance Days and stuff like that. So this should be something that we should have in our pocket, just in case we do go out as elected officials to some certain thing where it might be needed. So Lindsay, you did a great job. So that's good. So just a comment.
Thanks. Jason.
Yeah, I guess I acknowledged last week or kind of brought up. I know it's a touchy subject. I just worried this isn't about all political correctness stuff. Like, I just don't know. I understand this is a very unique situation, but we're just doing this for one group. What are we going to do when another group comes and wants this done? Are we going to do another statement and another statement? I just don't know. I don't even say we shouldn't do it, but I just don't know about every council meeting. I'm just worried. We want to be all inclusive, but this is not being all inclusive. We're only doing it for one group. And I know I'm going to get called a racist or whatever, but it's just, I don't know. I just, I'm just worried it's about political correctness. I hope it's not about that and vote getting, because there's a lot of talk about this issue. Talk, but nothing's getting done anyways. I know a lot of bad stuff happened, but we should be looking to the future instead of looking backwards, I think. It's just a comment. I'm just worried we're just doing it for one group. I don't know who to ask. What are we going to do when the next group comes along and wants us to say something? It's just a comment.
Yep. Thanks for your comments, Jason. Anyone else? Okay, not seeing any others for now. Is anyone opposed to the motion? Okay, that is passed. Next, we have a motion moved by Martin, seconded by Jim, and it is Bylaw 2021-141. It's the to adopt the policy number 89 for the First Nations land acknowledgement. Any discussion on the bylaw? Seeing none, Lindsay, I'll get you to do the vote, please.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. A recorded vote for Bylaw 2021-141 to adopt the First Nations land acknowledgement policy. Councillor Shipston?
In favor.
Mayor Woodbury?
In favor.
Councillor Shearson?
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
In favor.
Yay.
Councillor Dobreen?
In favor.
Councillor Rice?
No.
Councillor Frew? You're muted, Councillor.
Yes.
Thank you. By a vote of 6-1, that's carried.
Okay, thank you. So thanks for your reports, Lindsay. Next is one of Jim's reports, 8.2.1, and it is to do with pickup truck purchase, moved by Barbara, seconded by Martin. Jim, did you want to add anything to that?
Good evening, good people. Well, I think the report explains most of what we're up against right now. We don't have a total solution. We're scrambling still. The truck is underperforming as it should be. And I would like to make a comment, though there is a correction on the Van Alstyne quote. They had been working on it and gave us a ballpark, but their quote is for engine replacement of 13,000 and change for their work if it was replaced with a new engine. We'll take any questions with you, which you have, and maybe a discussion point. We can go from there.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Martin, then Brian.
Thank you. Good evening, Jim. Through the chair. There's 6 points to consider. Number 6, I would like to continue to talk to the energy people. I have no idea how water gets into diesel. So you did mention in the report that it happened in Grey Highlands or West Grey. So that is an issue in itself. But if Van Alstyne's auto comes in at 13, do you think that would be the way to go, or how long would that take? How long would there not be a truck for Phil or anybody else in the work department? Because
Go ahead,
I know there's a lot of things going on with the automotive where you can't get parts. So would it be easier to put the 315 on the government deals and buy a new one, or I'm leaving it open, like with the new Van Alstyne quote? That's why I'm asking, what do you think is the best? Because that has changed the total report now, a couple of thousands less. So if you could answer something there.
Yep.
It's a lot,
Go ahead, Jim.
but
So if you look at it, the price of a new one and what there's a possibility of a trade-in value, and possibly we could get a little bit more on gov deals. But if you take that 27,000 and you put 13 or 15 into a new motor, you're back up at the $40,000 range, having a brand new truck that doesn't have 150,000 kilometers on it. And knowing that we've had a few possible issues that may come with some other things down the road here. So my best recommendation would be not to invest in this right now. Go this other route, go new again. We know that there's something on the lot that we can get a hold of a little bit quicker. Now that's subject to, you know, this was a week or two ago. We understand there's still one or two maybe out there, but they could be, we don't have a hold on them, so they could be possibly gone as well. But if we leave it to when it maybe just quits on us and leaves us on the side of the road, we're going to be a few weeks still getting things turned around and be out of vehicles. So the fortunate thing is that there wasn't much fuel put through the building cards. West Grey did have also issue, and imagine it was a human error issue with diesel going into gasoline. We did both do our own sampling and sent those samples away, and they both came back indicating very high fractions of diesel and water contamination.
Yeah. Well, as a follow-up, that was when I read that, it was when you got it tested, it was a very high ratio of water in the diesel. I'm not a mechanic. I don't drive a diesel, but I know that's not good. So for myself, you know, with the cost of the new engine and what have you, and the availability of trucks, if there's something available, I'd be okay to say buy the Cadillac Buick GMC and go from there, and then continue to push McDougall Energy to make sure they give us a good product. So just comments. There you go. Thanks, Jim.
Yep. I'll let Dave comment and then Brian.
Yeah, I guess I just want to share that we have been talking to McDougall, and this latest quote, and I would suggest if we get it repaired, that McDougall would be paying for that repair. We wouldn't pay for the repair, and that it should be repaired by Trillium, a Ford dealer, so that we can recover, and we could put it back in the fleet at least for the winter months for patrolling and have that extra vehicle available. And there may be some requirement in our accommodation process to need an extra vehicle. But anyway, we are going to continue to push them because we think it's unacceptable, and they have allowed us to do further investigation with another dealer, being Trillium.
Okay, thanks. Brian?
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John. I guess Dave or Jim, what is the value of McDougall's contract with us on an annual basis? Roughly.
I don't have that on the top of my head, Deputy Mayor Millen, but I do know that just prior to this, and because we were tied in with the county contract, that in the later spring, the county done an extension that was part of the contract that they could extend another couple years, and the lower municipalities that were involved in this contract as well had renewed, or as far as I know, some of them have renewed. We kind of put ourselves on hold because of this situation and still have not committed to extending the contract. We're still using them. I would just suggest, if we do say that we're cutting ties, if they're not going to come to the table for us any further, that we're going to, before we get a tender in place, we're going to have a supplier come in and keep us rolling, because we just can't go without going to the gas station for a pump for fuel.
No. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right, Jim. And that wasn't what I was suggesting. I was just for context, I guess. I was just wondering how hard we can push McDougall, because obviously this was a human error somewhere along the supply chain. And if they're not willing to come good for it, then we need to consider that. So thanks, Jim.
Dave?
Yeah, we had a very strong conversation about they should come to the table and stand behind their product and fix damages as a result of their product. And we were very clear, if this doesn't get corrected, that we'll be looking to an alternate supplier that will supply a good product and stand behind it, even if it costs more, because they did throw at us a bit of a, it's hard to get fuel on the world stage at a good price and all this kind of stuff. And that wasn't too pleasing to our discussion, and we basically said they need to fix this problem, and then we'll see who supplies us fuel in the future.
Yeah, pretty expensive though for bad fuel, so it might be cheaper prices than what the going market is, but for bad fuel it isn't. So, any other questions or comments? Jason.
I guess it's the Jim, just by the report here, this happened back in May, is that right, correct?
Yes.
So Phil's still, that's Phil's truck, his red one that he drives all the time?
Correct.
Or is this yeah. So I'm just wondering, like, that's 5 months ago and it's still driving around every day, I see it. So is it in that bad a shape? Like, I'm just wondering. If it's lasted 5 months, it might last another 5 years.
Well, we have a video of its sound and the ticking and the talking, and it's still increasing in sound. It has now developed engine oil leak at a cylinder. I'm not 100% if Phil's on here. He was maybe joining. If Phil's there, he can maybe chime in, because he's the guy driving it pretty much every day. Are you out there, Phil?
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm here now, Jim.
How long it's still going.
Can I give a description on how the truck is from before and after, or before and now?
Yeah, I don't know if you can hear me there, but
Yep.
no, it always had a wee bit of a tick to it, but it's a knock now, and like you said, it's burning a liter oil a week, and the noise is getting actually louder, and it could last 5 years, Jason, but it may last 5 minutes. It's a crapshoot, and we don't need to be down on a vehicle.
Mm-hmm. Thanks,
Have
Phil.
we looked into a used engine? Like, I'm just going by where I say that value of the trade-in value is 25,000 for the truck. Seems pretty steep to me for a truck with a bad engine, but
I can speak to that, Jason. We got a price from Trillium Ford, and the difference between a new engine and a used engine is about $1,000.
Okay, no, that's yep.
Only 1 year
The engine
warranty.
itself is cheaper. Yeah, sorry, the engine is cheaper for the used, but they have to go through that engine, change all the fluids, and do so much work to it. It brings the price up to almost, like I said, $1,000 difference. And with the new engine, you get full warranty.
Mm-hmm.
One more, do we get full warranty through a new engine at Van Alstyne's?
I would have to check with Paul, but I believe so, because I think he has to buy his engine from Ford.
Okay, thanks. Michael?
If McDougals are going to eat the cost, I'm pretty sure we should just replace the engine in the truck versus buying another brand new truck. That's just my opinion.
Okay. Jim?
We don't have 100% commitment that McDougall, they've pretty much said they're standing pat. We've sent it to Trillium again. We've sent, asked Van Alstyne for their letter of opinion on the truck. And we haven't had a discussion with them again, but everything that we've seen come through Trillium or anything doesn't support any more than we already had about they're just saying you need new. It doesn't support was it the contamination was the problem. So we are proposing as well right now for the 2022 budget, 3 pickup trucks for Public Works. So if we did get one and they said they would come to table for replacing this one, maybe we can juggle the act for next year as well. But we have no commitment from McDougall to pay for the engine replacement.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Jason, go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering, should we, I mean, the truck's ran now, should we defer this for a month and see what McDougall's going to do? Like, if they call up tomorrow and say, yeah, we're going to pay for that engine, you know, maybe we do need a new truck. I'm not saying we don't, but if they're going to, you know, it's only got 140,000, is it? If they're going to pay for the engine, well, but it sounds like they're not. So I just wondered if we should defer it and see, give them a deadline maybe, or it sounds like we're not going to get nothing from them, are we?
Dave, go ahead, and Jim.
Maybe I'll take that. At this point, I am not confident, but they did back up and ask for us to go to Trillium or get another opinion. We've got that opinion. We're going to need to meet with them again. The problem is that we're coming into our winter season and we can't be, you know, this truck is again going to be down likely for a couple weeks, and you know, we've been kind of riding out that service interruption, but I don't think during the winter months that service interruption can be tolerated. We need vehicles on the road patrolling and so on. Plus, if they do come to the table and return our asset to its original value, we may need that asset for some accommodation stuff on the COVID side to accommodate some employees being isolated and being able to still work in our operations.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments? Brian?
Thanks, John. Just real quickly, I noted that Jim had mentioned there just a minute ago that the budget for next year, there's going to be a request in the on the taps department for 3 new pickups. So if we buy one now, this Chev, or is it a Gia? Yeah, Chev. Then they'll only request 1 in the next year's budget.
I like your math. It's nowhere near Gail's math, but
well, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
But really, I mean, yeah. So if we buy one now, it's just 1 less that we have to buy next year, from my perspective, anyway. So 6 of one, half dozen the other. I think the bigger issue here is the fuel supply and getting good fuel.
Yeah, I agree. Dave?
I was just going to say, I mean, I can see Brian's math. I mean, if we do get this truck back in the fleet with an engine, that may be a consideration for next year. But again, Jim's got to, make sure everybody has some wheels underneath them to get to where they need to be.
Yeah.
Dave, we can't buy a pickup for every employee in the township.
Don't think that's what we said, but
the fire department's got lots more door stickers, I think, that they can go around for. Barbara.
Thank you, through you. So if the resolution is recommending that we advertise the truck for sale, but could we remove that clause? And I'm not saying not buy the truck, because I agree with Deputy Mayor Milne. If we buy it now, it's 1 less that we're going to need to budget for next year. And if we spend a month, like Councillor Rice suggests, to see if we can get McDougall to come to the table and pursue the replacement of that engine, it might be another truck that's less that we have to buy next year. So right now the resolution is recommending that we offload that unit, advertise it on Gov Deals. I guess we could still advertise it, but I don't know that we want to divest ourselves of it at this point until we know whether McDougall's going to come to the table. I mean, I'm not sure that Southgate is that significant to McDougall Energy when they have the county and other municipal contracts. I don't know that that's leverage enough, but it's, good faith and their reputation on the line. So that word's going to get out. My recommendation, or as an amendment, would be to, if council's wish is to hold on to unit 315 until, for the next 30 days to pursue the replacement engine and see if McDougall comes to the table to assist with that, rather than advertise and sell it. And then, in 2 weeks, find out that McDougall is, based on the Trillium quote or recommendation, because we haven't seen that yet. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dave?
yeah, I think we're going a wee bit beyond what the resolution really is about is the outcome. We're looking for a decision. If the outcome of McDougall is they're not going to do anything, obviously we're going to wait and not advertise it until such time as we get a decision from McDougall. But if we don't get a decision from McDougall, we don't feel this vehicle is reliable enough to stay in the fleet, and Gov Deals would be the outcome of those discussions if they don't repair the truck and replace the engine.
Thank you for that clarification, Dave.
Okay.
Okay. Not seeing anybody else's hands up, so we can go to the motion. Oh, Martin?
Well, yeah, I'm not a mechanic, but when there's water in the diesel, how does that really mess up the engine? Like, does it start rusting from the inside out because there's water? Like, I'm not a mechanic, so how does that affect the engine per se? You know, maybe we shouldn't even talk about that, but
really,
Yeah.
I mean, does it make any difference at this point? I mean, I don't think we need.
no, probably not.
No.
Yeah. Yep.
I
Jim?
apologize for that. I'll resend that then. No problem.
Yep, Jim?
So just to be clear, this is a gasoline engine, and there is diesel and water contamination in the fuel mixture in the gasoline. Vidalstein's initial report was that there was a detonation issue with the fuel taking the spark, and the hit on the cam is what triggered some of the damage to the engine from detonation of poor fuel mixture. So it's not diesel, water just in diesel, it's water in diesel and gasoline.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go to the question now, and that is to purchase the new vehicle and then advertise Unit 315 on Gov Deals when it's appropriate. So is anyone opposed to this motion? Okay, seeing none, that is passed. Thanks, Jim and Phil. Appreciate the input from both of you on that, and I think that's a better way to go. So next, 8.3, moved by Barbara, seconded by Jason, and that is the report CAO 2021-067, the Flato Land Development Proposal Report. Dave, I'll that to you then.
You're muted.
Flato has voiced a concern, not concern, but they believe now that they're supportive of us selling 12 acres to another party, that they are going to back away from the 20 acres as it's now a smaller project, and they want to focus on some other things, which we're going to talk about in this report as well, larger parcels and the Melanchthon annexation issues. So we have already got a buyer for the 20-acre parcel and the 12-acre parcel that Terry will be bringing to the next meeting. And I think it's a real good news story as far as developing sooner, getting more jobs in place sooner, because we did hear that last night. As far as the rest of the report, I think it's pretty well explains related to this that we'll take questions if there are any.
Okay, well, let's see. Are there any questions? So a lot of quiet going on. Jason, and then Brian.
Just wondering, Dave, so with all we've done with Flato here and that, and so are they basically saying that they're not going to make enough money off this property now, or and I understand we got another purchaser there. I just read the paper before, and I see they got 900 homes going into Owen Sound and stuff. So I'm just
Yeah, so I mean, originally they had plans for that property, but I think they want to pivot their plan into larger parcels. So the people the industries and buildings they had planned for that property, they're pivoting to look at phase 2 or the Melanchthon project that they're working on. The 20 acres for them, it gets a bit small, and I think they were intent on housing in that development, and we've been pretty clear that that's not something we wanted. So they're not upset, we're not upset. I think it's a win-win for both of us, because I think you'll see construction is being planned with these two new developers, or these two new businesses that will start building next year.
And I can tell you that they're still very committed to the community. So Brian, then Martin.
Thank you, John. And I'm glad to hear Dave say that they're going to start building next year. I love that. But I've heard that before from other people too. But anyway, that's not the nature of my question. My question is related to I see in the report here that that Flato has purchased 250 acres of land in Melanchthon on the east side of Highway 10. Are they suggesting that they want to annex the 250 or a part of that, or do they know at this point?
Yes, the whole 250 acres would be annexed.
Right.
And they have started discussions with Melanchthon. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think, as I mentioned to you before, if you're looking for a model, years ago, Mount Forest annexed a piece of Egremont, so there might be, a model there that to follow. It seemed to work very well for both parties.
Yeah.
That's a number. That's a number of years ago now, but might be a consideration. Thank you.
Just to maybe expand on that question and so on, we'll be working with Municipal Affairs and Melanchthon. We want to meet with the mayor and our mayor and Flato and the CEOs of the two municipalities and have this discussion, figure out an agreement. There'll be transition, likely, who knows, over 10 years, or that's usually the tradition, but we'll have those discussions and bring something back to you in future meetings for going forward.
Yep. Thanks. Martin. Well, you keep saying you're going to make donations for being on mute, but I don't know where that money's
do
all
every
going.
week.
Yeah.
I do every week, so it's all good. Dave, through the chair, concluding comments. Number 4, that council directs staff to continue discussions with Flato, as obviously we should, in relation to working with developing Eco Park Phase 2 property, constructing the roadway and services in comparison to the JLL proposal. What is there to compare? Is JLL just leasing the land? Are we on the whole tilt for constructing roadways and services, or is there is there a hybrid that we can work between Flato and JLL? So,
well, what we've asked is we've heard, as you've heard the presentation from JLL and the presentation to council last meeting. So what we've asked Flato to do is come forward at the November 3rd meeting and present their proposal. What are they going to do? What kind of commercial partners do they have in their suite of business contacts?
Right.
So we think we need to hear that and how this is going to be developed, and any partnerships we can create to carry the financial load would be beneficial. So we're just going to start that conversation and make sure council is fully informed of what Flato will do and what JLL will do. You've already heard. So we're going to have that discussion and comparison. Hopefully at the next meeting, we'll have Flato's coming and we'll have a report to kind of be make our recommendation to council on those issues.
Okay. And a follow-up, they do, from the last meeting, they do own land on the north side of 10 from Dundalk. So they own quite a bit of land around Dundalk, even though it's not in Southgate. So it'd be nice to see some green industry come in. So anyway, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Barbara.
Thank you. So I had a conversation with Dave, and while it's unfortunate that the 20 acres with Flato isn't going to proceed, the benefit, or the offshoot benefit, is that we'll be able to sell that 20 additional acres at a more favorable rate, correct, Dave?
Okay. No, I'm not going to say that tonight.
Okay. So no. Okay.
That
would be good.
It would be great, but we need to, I think, look at this whole jobs, building coverage, development charge
Sure.
collection as a full package. And I think you'll, anyway, we're still in negotiations, but we've heard a lot. I just soon not get into that tonight.
No, of course, but there is that option that we can pursue since we do have it in, you have mentioned it in your report. So thank you.
Okay, Lindsay.
Dave, your report in the recommendation from the top of your report, it's missing the clause about JLL that's in your concluding comments. When that was brought up, I reread it. Do you want that as a fourth clause? Because it's currently not. You're muted. You're muted, Dave.
And yeah, the way I've written it, it does sound like that, but I was doing that just for information for council. So okay. I mean, let's take that last clause as just that council be aware that we're going to continue discussions with Flato in relation to phase 2.
Okay, thanks.
Sorry for that confusion.
Okay, any other comments? Jason.
I guess excuse me, I guess it's to Dave. Dave, point 6 there, could you just explain that? I mean, Southgate developed its own plan and stuff. Just maybe I'm not reading, maybe I'm not jumping out at me what the meaning is.
You've gone mute again.
Technical challenges, but anyway, thanks for bringing that up. What I want to point out there is that there are portions of land on both the east side of the railway trail and the west side of the railway trail, more southerly, that are not part of the 140 acres on Highway 10. And that land, I believe we could develop off of Eco Parkway Road, the portion of Eco Parkway Road that will traverse more north and south to connect the two roads. And I think that's land we can develop ourselves and just recoup more cost to help pay for, or get more revenue to help recover the costs of building the roadway and the development and so on. But there are some parcels of land that we have to talk about when we get into the planning side of it for planning outside of the 140 acres on Highway 10.
Okay.
And this is land, just if you put it in perspective, that's kind of behind the lagoon, the southern part of the lagoon, and still west of the rail trail. There's also a small parcel that's north and east of the rail trail that's not part of the 40 acres, but it's, or 140 acres, but it's not as large a parcel.
Okay, thank you. Martin, then Barb.
Through the chair, John. Dave, so you're saying there's abutting lands to the new roadway. What are we looking at as far as acreage there? Is it
that's
sizable?
yet to be, yeah, that's yet to be determined for a few reasons. There could be 20, 25, maybe 30 acres, but we have to consider, do we need to retain an easement for wastewater, to the lagoon and so on. But this is something we're exploring and also looking at from the standpoint of, the development capacity related to wetland versus, developable land.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Barbara?
Thank you. And I go back to comments Deputy Mayor Milne has made about rail. And when you start talking about lands abutting east and west of the rail trail, do we need to, I don't know what the likelihood of rail returning, but you never know. Do we need to establish a form of setback to ensure that, we haven't eliminated that possibility?
Yeah, there'll be nothing we will do to ever eliminate the possibility, because Grey County wouldn't let us. but Grey
Okay.
County would have considerable say as we would in, how this is developed, the setbacks of buildings from the property, because obviously even the property owners would want to stay back for future development of offloading options or whatever if rail did return. But there'll be nothing we would do in any of this development that would jeopardize the future use of that rail trail for transportation purposes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Call the question then. Is anyone opposed to this motion? Seeing none, I'll declare that passed. Next, we have moved by Martin, seconded by Jim. The 8.3.2 CAO report 2021-068. Dave, did you want to add anything about that?
Just that we had a presentation from the planning department, specifically their climate change action plan lead, and it was very informative. It provided where they're at, and I thought it was best that we report to council on that meeting, as well as what our recommendations coming out of that meeting was. That we'd have Linda Swanson present what we were presented, who is the manager of climate change initiatives for Grey County, but that we would piggyback off of there. Some municipalities are going out and hiring a consultant and doing a bunch of paperwork, and I just don't see that as being necessary. County has a great plan. We can piggyback off it, and I think if we do anything, which we need to, is we need to set priorities and establish things that are actually going to create change with relation to climate change. But those would be council's decisions. In our official plan, we're making, we're creating strategies in our official plan for climate change. And as you look at all these different strategies council or the county has put forward, we need to take a look at that in our future community action plan, in our future community improvement plans for maybe helping businesses to convert their businesses to use less energy, better insulation, maybe rooftop solar panels, to try and get buildings closer to net zero energy consumption. But this is just an information package, and we'll likely be inviting Linda Swanson to speak to you and do a better job than I'm doing tonight.
Thanks, Dave. Brian. And then
thanks,
Mark.
John. I was going to suggest that out of this whole county plan, which Dave is right, is very encompassing. The final strategy there, the corporate municipal culture, in my mind, is the piece that Southgate really needs to embrace here. Because if you're not going to embrace the culture of climate change and mitigation, then the rest of it is just paper. So I think that's the piece that we have to focus on. How are we going to achieve all these other strategies? And if we're not interested in actually putting our heads into it and making it work, then it's not going to work. So, maybe instead of buying 3 more full-size pickups, we buy 3 smaller pickups. I don't know, but we need to start thinking that way, I think.
Okay.
Or electric pickups could be an option.
Electric bicycles, it just goes on and on and on.
It goes on, it goes on and on. But I guess thanks for bringing that up, because my attachment, where I want to go with that, Brian, and council, is that this needs to be like a budget. It's an annual effort by each department, like you say, to create a culture change, create action strategies that we can implement, in our procurement, in our energy use, in, resident education. Maybe there's departments that need to be part of that, which would obviously be building, but that we create a budget and eventually a 10-year rolling and climate change budget that says we're going to do these things to be better and get better. And that's going to be helping educate our rural community. As you can, you'll maybe see, well, you will see in the Swanson report, is that 44% of the issues are related to climate change or in agriculture. But not to slag on agriculture, that's where our food production is. So all industries need to get more efficient, and we'll just try and help work with that and improve that over time.
Yeah. Martin.
Yeah, thanks, John. Through the chair. Dave, actually, before I ask you a question, Brian, Deputy Mayor, that was a good point. If you don't have the culture behind knowing what's going on, the rest of it does not mean anything. So that was a good point that you brought up, Brian. I really appreciate that.
It almost sounds like a beer commercial.
And Dave, you, yeah, well, with all the, well, I'm not going to go there, but anyway. But no, it was a good point. There has to be a paradigm shift somewhere. But for you, Dave, you just mentioned budget as far as green goes, and that is very part of it too. That affects the culture. If we know we can save money or make money, and that's coming up to my point. And you mentioned like Southgate, we know it's a rural community. Community agriculture, strategy 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I'm not a farmer, but I know a lot of this stuff is being already done by farmers. Strategy 16, we're having Petawawa for biogas capture. We're making money off that. My question really, Dave, I don't know if you can answer it. Hopefully the lady that you're is going to present to us. Strategy 19 is reforestation, afforestation, habitat and biodiversity protection. Is there anything in the county plan to get all the municipalities to combine with all their green treed areas so we can sequester that carbon and to get money out of it, where the county actually says, okay, we have 300,000 acres, we're doing carbon sequestering, let's give that money out. Because as Deputy Mayor Brian Mills said, it is a culture, and part of that culture is the money. Is there anything in there that we could do?
I would suggest.
Or is that for the lady coming?
I would suggest that those kind of things are your way, that'll come further down the road. We need to do the things that are low hanging fruit, get rid of energy consumption, like furnaces that use oil. You know, do we you know, look at rural gen sets and all that sort of stuff? There's some low hanging fruit that need to be requested or solved first rather than sequestering. But no doubt agriculture manages a large part of the canopy in Grey and Bruce and Ontario. So that's a discussion that I think we could you know, extend out to the presenter from the county.
Okay, well that's good. Follow up, you said low hanging fruit. I have no idea how much forested land we have in Southgate, but there's obviously fruit that's standing still right now. So that would be a good point to present to the lady coming. So anyway, thank you.
Okay.
Barbara.
Just a comment.
Thank you. And I think Dave alluded to it. He mentioned it in his staff report, the genset power production. Would that be where we would require industrial shops to use hydro electricity as opposed to generator power rooms?
Propane conversions. Yeah, propane conversions. I think, you know, that's going to be a long process, but I think those are conversations we can have with that community and see where it goes. But I think, you know, requiring gen sets to be powered by propane would be much cleaner in the future.
For sure. Yeah, instead of diesel. Thanks so much.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Seeing none. Anyone opposed to this motion? And then that is carried. Next one, 8.3.3, moved by Jim, seconded by Jason, and it's CEO Report 2021-069, Dundalk Old Town Hall meeting report. Dave, anything you want to say about that?
meeting. The mayor attended it virtually, and we tried to limit the number of people in person, but we Team Town Hall and Wellington Capital Corp and Southgate, represented by Kevin Green and Kayla Best and myself. But it was a good meeting. This is an initial report. There'll be another report coming. I've asked Team Town Hall to weigh in on any other concerns and provide more information in support of sustainability and use of the building long term, because this is a long-term commitment and we need to consider that. But this is just a first report to make sure council's up to date with what has happened in the last few weeks.
Thanks, Dave. And to me, it was a very positive meeting, and all the sides seem to be working towards a common goal. So it was really good. Kudos to staff, to the proponent, Ray, and to Team Town Hall. Questions or comments? Barbara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you. I did have a couple of questions because you want some feedback. And the resolution to me is directing you to negotiate agreements before, but you've just mentioned that another report is going to come back. Are we getting a little ahead of ourselves by directing you to enter into negotiations with Wellington Capital Corporation and Team Town Hall before we see the result of your next report? And when will that report be coming? I've got a couple of questions, so Dave, bear with me so I can get them out. There was a couple of things in the report where you mentioned the demolition value of 100,000 to 200,000, and I remember distinctly the 2013 Old Town Hall Task Force put that budget amount for demolition in closer to the 100,000 as opposed to 200,000. So I think that's important. I was intrigued by your concept or comment that perhaps the township retain ownership of the land and sell the building for 1,000. I'm not sure what reaction or how receptive Wellington Capital Corporation was of that suggestion, but it's something that I'd be interested in pursuing. Not sure about the concept of a converted container for change rooms and supplies for Dundalk Little Theatre outside or on the property for performances, when there'll be other organizations that may be performing in the, if this all goes through, it's down the road. I'm not sure about that concept, because we definitely need space that would accommodate other productions other than Dundalk Little Theatre. So that was kind of something that I was on the fence with, and certainly we haven't met with Wellington Capital Corporation, and I'm wondering if a committee of the whole, with a virtual committee of the whole, where we can all be in the room, where we can ask the questions, come up with some flavor of how receptive they are, what Team Town Hall has proposed, maybe in time with your next report, so that maybe we can move this forward, because I'm sure Wellington Capital Corporation isn't interested in dragging this out much longer. We've tried to do due diligence and meet with them, but timing, COVID, everything else has put delays in place. And I guess my final comment for providing feedback is, one of the questions that I would like to ask Wellington Capital Corporation is, if we're providing the capital investment of, let's say, $100,000, which I'm not unsupportive of, is the expectation that we would begin paying the $3,000 a month, regardless of whether the doors are open and we can get in there and produce revenue, or would that $3,000 a month be our agreement when the doors open? Because that makes a difference to me. So I know that's a lot to throw at you, but I'm hoping I got that in under my 2 minutes.
Dave, do you want to handle some of that?
I'm not sure I can unpack or remember all of that, but there's some of that I think we just need to put our seatbelt on, and that will be part of negotiations when we start paying. You know, if there's questions, let's get them before, you know, with staff, and trust that we'll get the answers for you. I guess what I'm looking for tonight is there an appetite around the information in this report to basically, do we want to go forward in looking at an agreement, forging an agreement? I think there's a lot more for Team Town Hall to come forward with as far as their commitment and sustainability of this. Because if we're going to commit for 20 years in an agreement, let's say, there is no out clause. We're paying for 20 years. So I think we're asking Team Town Hall. We don't see Team Town Hall being party to the agreement with Wellington Capital. We think we have to have a separate agreement. They really don't fit well together, but our agreement, I would say, is obviously financial, and it's obviously a sound, or like a very solid commitment without, you know, for that 20-year period. The flip side is, I think council has to really, I think, challenge Team Town Hall more so, because we can put the terms before Wellington and agree to that as to what they're going to do, when they're going to do it. But the commitment from Team Town Hall is more of a, you know, a trust factor. There's nothing, we can't hold them financially responsible if they just quit. And I'm not saying they're going to. I'm just saying we need to go into both of these agreements with our eyes wide open in relation to our commitments. I see, you know, the commitment from Wellington Capital. They want to do this as a project in their community that they do business in, and so I'm confident there. But we just need to make sure that Team Town Hall is our partner for that same 20 years and beyond, because they're quite willing. I think both parties are quite willing to have this agreement tied together that, you know, it could be renewable for a period of 10 years, 3 times, and tie the building up for cultural use for 50 years or so.
Yep, thanks, Dave. And just a couple of things to add in on that before we get back to you there, Barb, is the motion is just directing staff to develop. It's not to come with an agreement. It's get it all set. It's to work with the proponent and Team Town Hall to work things out and to continue on. So, and the other thing is, and this is something that I really believe in, is that this is being worked out with Team Town Hall, and they're a group of dedicated people, and they're the ones getting into the nitty-gritty. I think as council, we need to stay where we should in the higher level things and look at the money and budgeting and that type of stuff. I think where dressing rooms are and how Team Town Hall plans to do the things, some of those things are more up to what is acceptable to them, and because they're not talking just about the theater, they're talking about a lot of different things. And I think a lot of the individual details need to be satisfied to them, not to us. They're the public, they're the ones working on it, and I think we need to stick to the policies and the budgets, and that's just my opinion. So Barb, go ahead with your other comment.
So I don't disagree with you, but when something is in the report and the CAO is asking for feedback, it raises questions. This has been something that I've been involved with since 2013. It's something that I'm near and dear to my heart to see something happen. The last meeting was in June, and we're now in the last half of October. When do you anticipate us getting to the end here, Dave? Because, you know,
So
I think Wellington's generosity has, you know, will only be extended for so long, and I think it's a wonderful opportunity for us to explore.
So I guess how I'll respond to that is we've been talking with Wellington all the way along and making sure they're still engaged. You know, we've been waiting for information, and we're still waiting for that. And I've asked them to get me information for the next meeting. We're going to present it November 3rd, another report, whether we have what I'm looking for. And the plan is to have this done by the end of the year and have something for council, because Wellington want to take 3 to maybe even 6 months, but likely about 3 months to look at the building and do an assessment and start actually doing upgrades that by the middle of next year something could be happening in there. But you know, we're waiting for feedback from Team Town Hall on some of the questions we've posed to them.
Thank you. So as long as Team Town Hall has been given, you know, adequate time to respond, then I'll look forward to November 3rd. Thanks.
And
maybe, anyway.
I can confirm that
Go ahead,
Team
John.
Town Hall has been working with staff, and they definitely have had their say. I can say that because they've been in touch with me over this. So, Martin.
And maybe,
Dave, did you have something?
Maybe I'll add to that conversation. Wellington have also been talking to Team Town Hall, so it's a three-way conversation going on. If I didn't cover, if there's some issues that we missed because there was a lot going on in Barb's conversation, please send me an email, you know, encapsulating some of those discussions to make sure we get them in the agreement. But I think I have most of it.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
No problems, Martin. How big is that jar that you're putting stuff?
I can answer that question.
It's a mason jar. It's a big mason jar. Given to me by the Masons, actually, just up the road. But anyway, I digress. Page 83, I'm looking right now. Just a comment. They are planning to move the Dundalk Herald downtown. So that could become a hinge pin place for the downtown to develop, right? You mentioned that in there. So I think that's a good thing for them to do. The one point Councillor DeBreen mentioned was number 8, where we would retain the land ownership if the building is gutted, demolished, or abandoned. I don't know if that's in the likelihood, because I would like to see the building stay, but as what John and you said, we just want to pass this resolution. Page 83, page 84, number 4, township an out clause in the agreement to remove itself from the agreement and its financial commitment should the community use of the building and or the community partnership station fail in their involvement. That's a pretty forward-looking thing. But then it's highlighted and it says WCC commented that this could not be a condition in the agreement for the first 20 years. Would you see that as a deal breaker for this?
I'm not going to comment on that. That's council's decision, but it's very much this whole deal is hinged on our full 20-year commitment, in his opinion. That's what his offer is providing.
Yeah, well, I'm just asking that because it was highlighted, and it's.
Yep.
I'm thinking that could be a deal clincher, or say no. But anyway, thank you.
Okay, Brian.
Thank you, John. So let's be clear. Wellington Capital Corporation is asking for $3,000 a month for 20 years. That's almost $750,000. Does Team Town Hall, are they working towards that number?
So
Like, is that what they're trying to come up with to show us how they can manage an expense near that?
So their commitment, and I think it should be in here, and maybe it's not, but I thought I put it in, is that their commitment is $10,000 per year, plus covering operating expenses of the cultural space.
So they're thinking that
So
the
operating
township's going to pick
expenses,
up the balance of that.
Yeah. So okay. So let's do the math. We would pay 36,000. They would pay 10 of that. So they would pay 10,000 a year. We would pay $26,000 a year. Now that's their offer. I mean, that's still for negotiations. And that's what I want to
be clear about.
Yes. No, for sure. That's the negotiations part. What is their commitment? They're going to do fundraising for the capital stuff and take that on. And we would support them with working with getting grants for projects like an elevator and those other types of things they need. But they would hopefully realize profit in the operations, and I think those profits should be turned back to covering some of that 26,000 that of math that we just talked about on an annual basis. But those are the issues, those are discussions, and that's why I brought this report forward early. If there's interest in proceeding, we'll proceed, but there's no sense in me working on an agreement if we don't have some of that basic understanding and support to proceed.
Well, and if I might, Mr. Mayor, I fully support you proceeding to see what kind of an agreement we can reach with Team Town Hall. But and I look forward to that report. But to me, it looks like a steep hill for somebody to climb here. But I look forward to seeing what Team Town Hall can commit to. I really do. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions or comments? Jason.
I guess I'm with the proponent here. It seems to me there's a lot of what ifs. Like if you look at in 5 years we might do this, in 6 years we might do this, and it's a lot of what ifs. And $26,000 a year for what's going to happen there. I just don't see what's going to happen there. And as far as Team Town Hall, I don't want to slag on them, but they were going to raise all this money to show us what they could do. Where is it? I just don't see it. It'd be nice to save it. The proponent there, like, I guess that's a question to you, David. There's too many, like, we might do this in 3 years. We might do this in 5 years. We want $200,000. I don't know. To me, it's a lot of money, and I don't think there's enough for the amount of people that are going to be using it. I don't know. It's a lot of money in my books.
So just to add on or jump on to those comments, those were some of the comments. Like, it's hard for Wellington to say they're going to do this and they're going to do this and they're going to do this. They're obviously going to fix up their space. And we talked about, the carrying capacity of the building and the life safety issues. Those things they're going to commit to. But the other stuff, what's Team Town Hall going to do? And if they're going to do something, then he would, be involved and help and support some of that. So it's a lot on Team Town Hall, what they want to do, the funding they're going to raise. And I've asked that question several times about what have you fundraised, and I have yet to get an answer on that issue. So that does need to be flushed out. And in fairness, I mean, COVID's been a challenge, but we need to get those kind of numbers and see if they have the capacity to be a partner with us in this.
And that's kind of go ahead, Jason.
Well, no, just to follow up. So I just, what are we going to get out of it a year for our 36,000? Like, there's a lot of, I don't know, there just seems to be too many what ifs. And I guess I'm pessimistic, but I don't know why this guy's doing it for a reason. Okay, I'm sorry, but he's doing it for a reason. I understand. I would love to say let's keep the town hall. It's a heritage building, whatever. But it all comes down to money. And if the use isn't there and the money isn't there, then I don't see how we can throw money at it every year to keep it going. Something that's just spinning our wheels. I mean, we could get another truck for that half of that money. So I don't know.
So just in response to that, to kind of take Team Town Hall's side, if I would, to debate with you on that, because there's a lot of merit in what you say. But I guess the flip side of this is that we were facing $3, $4, $5 million worth of investment in town hall. That was just not a place we could go with our financial capacity we have as a township. We know that. What this will do is Mr. Stanton that represents Wellington Corp has a track record of rehabilitating buildings such as this and turning them into useful assets. As a partner, he would do that and participate in that with us and with Team Town Hall. But the three partners have to be at the table. What would our commitment be? Well, over the next 10 years, and if we want to roll it out to 20 years for this agreement, we'd be looking at $250,000, $26,000 a year times 10 is 260 times 2. So you're looking at $520,000, $500,000. So we would be putting $500,000 out, although it would be, I want to be straight up, there's that would be COLA'd over the 20 years. So there'd be an inflationary increase. But in 2021 dollars or 2022 dollars, we would be paying for $500,000 over that period. And as opposed to having to invest maybe $2 or $3 or $4 or $5 million to get possibly the same result. So I guess we have to decide whether we're going to be an investor in a cultural asset, and if Team Town Hall is a partner that's committed, because we see Wellington Corp is a committed partner to do this with us, to see that building, come back to a useful purpose.
Yeah, and I think the thing too, my big push is that this has gone on for a long time. So I think it's on us to try and bring a conclusion to this one way or another if we can. So that's whether it's, whatever our decision is. I think this has gone on, passed on from council to council and things like that too long, and too many committees looking at it over time. So Barb, then Martin.
Thank you for recognizing me for a follow-up, and I respect Councillor Rice's concerns. In fairness, I appreciate Dave coming to Team Town Hall's defense. Their commitment to fundraise never wavered, except for the fact that when it was a township building and the prospect of getting funding to keep it as a township building, when that went off the table and COVID hit, their fundraising efforts became questionable. People would be concerned about, well, what am I fundraising for if we're not keeping the building? So in fairness, I can appreciate that they didn't come through with all of the fundraising that they anticipated doing, but circumstances have been anything but normal in the last 20 months. And second of all, we pay a great deal. Arenas and pools and libraries don't make a profit. They don't bring in revenue to cover the cost of providing that recreation or service to the community. And with 200 more homes a year, or whatever that number's magically going to be, there's going to be a diverse group of people who are going to be looking for soccer fields, They're going to be looking for maybe tenant, better indoor tenants. I don't know what they're going to be looking for, but arts and culture is also an important aspect because not everybody plays hockey. I'm sorry. So I think that if we're going to truly invest in our community, we need to invest in other things or a broad range of things. And I think that this is worthy of pursuing. We can't make a decision if we don't have all the information. So I can't wait to hear from Team Town Hall and more from Dave as this develops, because arts and culture is a key component to every community. And if we can provide that in an historic or a heritage building, all the better. Thank you for listening.
Thanks. Martin?
Yeah, thank you, John.
Congratulations. That was the first one today that
thank
actually
you.
lecture is on.
That's right. I put the lid on the mason jar, so I can't do that anymore.
Careful.
We are as part of council supposed to look at the money and what have you, but as part of council, we're also supposed to put policies in place to look farther ahead in the future for other councils and the people that are moving up here. So I can totally agree with Jason's comments about not seeing money being spent wisely and all the what ifs. But the biggest what if is if we didn't do anything, what could have come from it? You're looking at 20 years. I'm pretty sure if we bought into this and got another report and go along with this plan, that I'm pretty sure with all the people coming into town over the next 5 years, they're looking for something to do. And as Councillor Green said, or stated, that they're looking for something other than maybe playing soccer and hockey. And at a good point that she mentioned that all these recreational things do operate at a loss. If we have community groups coming in and saying, hey, this is working, I don't think there's going to be a shortfall in 10 years or 20 years. Like, I think they can make it work for themselves. So I'm all for this. Let's as Mayor Woodbury said, this is too much being on the dock. Let's move forward, see what they have to say. And this is a case where we have to spend money. It's part of the downtown plan. The old adage, build it and they will come, is a perfect statement for the town hall. And if we have some corporate entity wanting to move their business into it and work over 10 years to get something in there, and then there's community groups, the ball will start to roll. If the team town hall gets something going, all the community groups like Lions, they would be able to use it. They could use it for their fundraisers. They could use it for shows. So yeah, maybe right now it's money being, should we? But we're looking at 20 years down the road. This is good for the community, especially when Flato actually uses the town hall signs in their advertising. So we better get to the plate and make this thing happen. That's just my opinion. So I'm for this going forward. Thank you.
Okay. Well, we've had a robust talk on this, so let's go to the question. Is anyone opposed to the motion? That is carried. Thank you. Thanks for all your work on that, Dave, and staff, as well as Team Town Hall. I know working with Ray and that, you're put a lot of hours into this.
Maybe just I'll add that if there is, well, there will be a time at a meeting in November, I'm hoping, that Team Town Hall will present to council, because I think they need to be accountable and answer the questions that you have.
Yep. Okay, so next we'll move on to Kls Report, and I don't know if we need the CAO succession plan now, because I think I just heard in the last report that he was going to be here another 20 years to make sure that that all worked out. So I'm not sure. Go ahead, Barb.
No offense to Kayla, but could we have a 5-minute break?
Sure. It's 8:35, just clicked over, so 8:40. Does that work for everyone? Okay, it's gonna. See you in 5 minutes.
So, my friend John, I hope that's a good move for you going to Durham. I think it is.
Well,
You know,
like I say, we're see how things go for a little bit, and then we'll see what we're gonna do after that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good for Linda too, I would think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just a reminder, the meeting's still recorded over recess. Just reminding.
Oh, my apologies.
No, it's okay. I just wanted to let everyone know that.
Yep.
Okay. Let's go back. Let's give Brian a second here. There's Michael back and Brian. So I will call the meeting back to order. And we have a motion moved by Barbara, seconded by Brian, about CAO succession plan. So Kayla, if there's anything you'd like to add to the report?
I don't have too much to add, really. I'm just hoping that council reviews this and provides any feedback if they would like any changes or if this is a good starting point.
I like those reports. So any comments, questions from council? Brian?
I like it. Thank you.
I like those comments too. Anyone else? Martin?
Yeah, I was looking at the timeline, and we've done what we need to do for the internal, and the dates for the internal external posting, that looks good. And thank you, Kayla, for doing the work. I think it's a good start, and there'll be some good jumping off points. So we'll go from it. So good job.
Yep, I agree. Any other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none. Anyone opposed to this motion? And that is carried. Let's see how the next one goes. This one's moved by Jim, seconded by Barbara, and it is the administrative support contract extension. Anything you want to say about this, Kayla?
Again, I think I don't have too much to say. I think we've noticed a very positive impact that this position has had on our administration office. So we would like to propose to keep it for the end of the year and then put it into the 2022 budget discussions.
Okay, thank you. Questions and comments? Brian?
The only thing I'd say is, and I agree, I think Charlie's doing a great job, because that's what we're talking about here, right? Is Charlie's contract? Yeah. Yes. She's doing a great job. I've heard some good reports from some people, but that phone system, honest to Pete, I mean, dynamite would fix that thing. I don't know what's going on with that thing, but man, so we're looking at that so that people can get through on weekends and that kind of thing. I had some real challenges this past weekend on an issue. I was trying to get a hold of some staff, and it's not staff's fault. It's the mechanics of however that system works. It sucks. But anyway, that's just my comment. But I'm at fully agreement to extend the contract. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's worth the investment.
Brian, that problem's been solved. There'll be a dedicated phone for bylaw enforcement.
Oh, I didn't hear the explosion, but yeah, that's good to hear it's solved.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Anybody opposed? And that's carried. Well, 2 for 4 so far. Next, moved by Jason, seconded by Jim, and it's HR Report 2021-027, Policy 90, the COVID-19 vaccination policy for contractors. Anything about this one, Kayla?
Yes, we did mark this as a temporary policy. We don't see this policy as something that will have to be in place and forever. However, with the vaccination policy for the employees currently being in place, we felt it necessary to also have one for the contractors.
Yep. Any questions, comments? Martin?
Yeah, thank you, John. Through the chair, this could be answered by Kayla or Dave. Looking at Jim's report further on, very good report, Jim. Thank you very much. You're always succinct in what you tell us as council, but there were some jobs still ongoing that were started 2-3 months ago, Road 49, culverts and what have you. When this policy tonight gets passed, is it going to be retroactive or for contractors after this date tonight? Go back in time or starts on the 21st? First question.
So once this is passed, we would be reaching out to the contractors, the companies, and getting people that are vaccinated to be on site. So that may mean that they may have to send different people than they were previously sending to that project. And maybe Dave can correct me if I have that wrong.
He doesn't look like he's going to correct you. You're right.
So it is retroactive then?
Yes, it'll be effective.
Okay.
Yeah, for current projects.
That's fine. And the only other question I have, I know we passed the vaccination policy for our own employees and council members and committee members and board members, basically anybody who is getting paid from the township. That's policy 87? I don't have that in front of me right now. I think words are very important and the way people read things. That policy that we passed last meeting does not have temporary in brackets. Why is this policy, which is just as important because they're employees, we're hiring them, why is there a temporary sticker on this policy when there isn't a temporary sticker on policy number 87? It implies that that will be looked at through the course of any other, hopefully not any more waves or anything. But when people read this policy and read the other policy and they see that temporary in brackets, and if they don't read it all, human nature is to say, well, why is this and why not that? Is that really, well, just a comment. Can you explain? Policies are supposed to be consistent. If we don't have this as temporary on our own employees and then temporary on outside employees, there's a mixed message going out there. So any comments or from Dave or Kayla about that?
Go ahead, Kayla.
I'm gonna agree with it, but the words are important. Why is temporary there and not in our own employees?
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, I think where we were going with that one is we had created a couple of temporary SOPs, like standard operating procedures, and we thought that fit into this and added the word temporary. You're right, we could have put that for the COVID-19 vaccination policy for the employees too, but we didn't. We do think that we could rescind it at some point, but yeah, it's just an inconsistency, but we could take the word temporary out of this one or add it to the other one, depending on what everybody wishes.
Well, I think there should be a friendly amendment somewhere. I know in the last package, the last meeting, number 87, vaccination policy, it does imply that it is a fluid, organic policy where we will look at anything and everything that the government, even with their inconsistencies, I'm politicizing there, apologies, Dave, but you know, there should be consistency between two policies. So either take the temporary out of this and keep it with the other one, or put temporary. We went on that's time and staff time. So if everybody agrees with that, take temporary out of this one, because God knows what's going to happen in 5 months from now. So just consistency for policies. So just a debate point, I guess. So thank you.
Go ahead, Barb. What was your
No,
point of
Dave's
privilege?
got his hand up. I was just going to, Martin's finish. That's okay, thanks.
Okay, Dave?
Yeah, so I think there is some differences. There's no doubt the policy isn't a policy that's in for until it's rescinded by council at some time, years and years in the future. I think the difference between these two policies is we want to be very clear. It's a temporary policy, but it is requiring double vaccination of contractor employees. This policy, we have talked about it, and the difference being we may make the policy dormant and not just get rid of it, because who's to say another pandemic might not come along in 5 or 10 years. So it could be made a dormant policy rather than just rescind it. There was a pile of work put into this, but I think that's a decision for another day. We've been very clear in our communications that this policy will not be in effect at some point in the future, but I'm not sure we should be just throwing it out the door when we don't need it anymore, because we have put a lot of work into it, and it could be brought back.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just a follow-up there, Martin, and then we've got Barb.
Yeah, I'm not saying throw it out, Dave or Kayla. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying the whole point of the last 3 years, if you have policies, it has to be the continuity. So either put temporary into the last vaccination policy, number 87, or just get rid of this temporary for this new one. There has to be some kind of consistency. That's what people are looking for. I really do believe words are important. And if somebody hopefully interested in municipal politics looks at this staff report and says, they will say, well, why is this policy temporary? And then they look at their own employees and says not temporary. They're not going to read the rest of it. They're just going to look at that word. So I would say the importance, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. I'm just saying that word can cause a lot of conflict. So get rid of the temporary. It is COVID-19 vaccination for contractors. The assumption is we don't know what's going to happen in 2 years or 5 years. So,
Barb, what's your point of
Councillor
privilege?
Gibson would like to make an amendment to remove the temporary. We can address that, but we're just repeating what he has. He's made a very clear point.
yeah,
Okay.
I would through Madam Clerk, if I could make, or you could write it for me, I would like to make an amendment. I agree with the policy. We've started the ball rolling with the other one, but I think the temporary word should be erased. So I'd like to make an amendment to omit that, and we can go forward.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Okay, there's no seconder, so that is gone.
Okay, that's fine.
Barb?
So through you to Kayla, Councillor Shipston asked a question about current jobs that are currently underway, specifically the Side Road 49 upgrades. I don't understand why workers outside, they're not coming into the municipal office. Why it would be retroactive? I can understand us asking for a preference for them to send vaccinated people, but I would hate to see that side road delayed because a contractor can't send a fully vaccinated individual when we have in our other policy education and having to prove that they've taken a rapid test and are not currently with COVID. because that is a big, huge project that we need to keep moving along. I'm not supportive of this being retroactive and point blank. If you can't supply vaccinated individuals to the project, then the project gets hung up. Can you clarify for that? Because I may have misunderstood.
Dave, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I want to just jump in here. I think we're micromanaging the policy a bit. We're asking contractors to just tell us their story. Do they have contractor employees that will be able to show up that are double vaccinated? If they tell us a story that they may not, they need some of their workers, we want to make sure that we're having that discussion so that there's an anticipation. If a member of the public drives up in his tractor and wants to know when he's going to be able to get through, that somebody can answer that question. There's an anticipation that that person that's communicating with our staff or with the public is double vaccinated and protected, because it's not about the unvaccinated, it's protecting the people that's in our community, and we have a duty to do that for our employees and the members of the community, because they are working on our property and representing the municipality. So there may be some people that can't do that, and we'll have to find a way. But we need to have those conversations, and Kayla's doing those confidential discussions and getting those kind of reports back. And if we have to make workarounds, we definitely want projects to go ahead, but we need to have those conversations.
Okay, Kayla, and then Barb. Did you want to add something to it?
Yes, I would like to add something. I know Councillor Debreen mentioned about like how we're giving the alternative of providing education and testing, but we don't have that kind of control with contractors. So we don't know what kind of protocols they have in place. So that's why we have to have this conversation with them. We know that our employees are taking the education, the rapid antigen testing, and following all of our safety protocols, but we don't know necessarily that contractors are doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay, Barb.
So I guess my comment is that contractors are going to provide you with their vaccination policy and practice. If they don't have one, then they should have a commitment to follow ours. And secondly, I really think it's a bit of a reach. We've managed for the last 20 months to wear masks and keep socially distant, that if a person goes beyond the sign that says road closed and is asking from his tractor, when the road is going to open, and the contractor's wearing a mask, I really don't think they're going to be exposed to COVID at that level. I think it's a bit of a reach, and I have a great concern. I'm going to trust you, Kayla, to make sure that our current contracts can proceed without interruption as a result of this policy. I do support the policy. I just like to see it, going forward. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Martin, but just quick, because you've already had lunch on this.
Yeah, I'm just going to say the last policy was based on occupational health and safety. I'm pretty sure all the companies that deal with us, they're big enough that they have HR on their own, and they have all the due diligence of occupational health and safety. So like the other, like it could be kind of redundant. I'm not disagreeing with this. My issue is just the temporary. I'll vote for it. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks, Martin. Okay, so I'm going to call the question on it. Is anyone opposed to this motion? All right.
You're muted, John.
Okay, thank you. But that was having just such a good go. I was pronouncing words right and everything. Next, so that motion is carried. First, I'll call the question again in case I didn't do that. Is anyone opposed to this motion? Okay, so what I said before was it was carried, but I actually never asked anyone. So it's carried, and now we have the bylaw for that, moved by Brian, seconded by Jim. Any discussion on the bylaw? Okay, Lindsay, I'll let you do that.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote for bylaw 2021-157 to adopt the vaccination policy for contractors. Councillor Dobreen,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Milne,
Yay.
Mayor Woodbury,
Yes.
Councillor Shearson,
Yes.
Councillor Frew,
Yes.
Councillor Shipston,
Yeah, in favor.
Councillor Rice.
Yes.
By a vote of 7 to 0, that's carried.
Okay, thank you. And thanks, Kayla, for all your work on this stuff. Next, we move on to Clint's reports, and I hope he's got those long comments like I like. We have a motion moved by Jason, seconded by Barbara, and it's planning report 2021-088. So, Clint, what would you like to say about this?
I'll just take questions.
Oh, I like that comment. Are there any? Okay, and your answers are perfect there, Clint. Is anyone opposed to this motion? And that is carried. Thank you. Next, we have moved by Martin, seconded by Jason. It's bylaw number 2021-152. Anything you want to say about this one, Clint?
No.
Oh, okay. Any questions or comments? Is anyone opposed to this motion?
Bylaw.
Lindsay, you're opposed?
No, but this one's the bylaw for NM.
Oh, this one's a bylaw? Then, so you are opposed, so I'll let you do this.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded for bylaw 2021-152 zoning bylaw amendment for NM Attachments Inc. Councillor Shipston,
In favor. Yep.
Councillor Rice,
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen,
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Milne,
Yay.
Councillor Shearson,
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury,
Yes.
Councillor Frew.
Yes.
By a vote of 7 to 0, that's carried.
Okay, thank you. Next, 8.5.3, moved by Barbara, seconded by Jim, and this is planning report PL 2021-089. Timothy Shantz. Anything you want to say about this one, Clint?
Do have to say a couple things about this. This is a new school they're proposing. It seems fine, and that's why I'm recommending it proceed. However, I'm also recommending waiving site plan control. I don't really see what site plan control is going to do for this particular application, but if council feels that we should still go through that process, I'm happy with that as well. But as I said, I just don't see the need for it in this particular case.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments? Martin?
Just a comment. I totally agree with Clinton about waiving the site plan control, because by the time the site plan control gets into place and everything's done, some of these kids might be going into different grades. So I'm all in favor of this one. So it's a school, you know, it's needed. Let's move it on for these people. So.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? Barbara?
Michael had his hand up first, though.
Oh, okay, sorry, didn't see you, Michael. Go ahead.
Just going to say the same thing. Let's speed up the process here. Takes way too long for a lot of things, so let's get it done.
I'm all in favor of that. Yep. Okay, Barbara?
I agree. The only thing that I did mention, and Clinton, you, I think you spoke to this at the planning meeting. I just want to make sure, I want to reiterate it, that Public Works has recommended the flashing solar lights, and that would be at the expense of the applicant. not the taxpayer, not the rest of the taxpayers.
That's my understanding, yes.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Well, not seeing any others. Is anyone opposed to this motion? And that is carried. And now we have the bylaw to go with it. Moved by Jason, seconded by Martin. Any questions or comments on the bylaw before I get Lindsay to do the vote for this? Okay, seeing none, go ahead, Lindsay.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote for bylaw 2021-153, zoning bylaw amendment for Timothy and Anita Shantz. Mayor Woodbury,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne,
Yay.
Councillor Dobreen,
In favor.
Councillor Rice,
Yes.
Councillor Shearson,
Yes.
Councillor Frew,
Yes.
Councillor Shipston.
Yes.
By a vote of 7 to 0, that's carried.
Okay, thank you. And Clint, thank you, and I enjoy your comments on the planning report. Next, we have bylaws and motions. We have 9.1. It's the bylaw number 2021-137, zoning bylaw amendment for Wilder Lake Subdivision. It is moved by Martin, seconded by Jim. And just to make note that Brian has gone from the meeting for this one. Lindsay, go ahead.
This was an amendment with the agenda, so there was an amendment to the schedule. Alicia's going to share her screen there, and it would be uploaded following the meeting with the proper schedule, but on the screen is the updated schedule. Nothing else changed. Clint can comments.
Okay.
Go ahead, okay, so the only change that happened to this schedule, it's moving on me here. Okay, is where on your screen where it says OS-503, that's the block where the dock is located. And you can see actually in the water, there's a little square that's just out on the, I guess it would be the east side of the dotted line there. That's just outside of the area. In the previous schedule, that little square was, that little square, you can see it, that's the dock. And that right there, it's being highlighted there. That has been removed from the schedule and just kept in the EP zone as opposed to the special EP zone. So it was just, it was done that way because there was an issue brought up about whether or not the lands are owned by the Crown or versus the applicant. And so to be on the safe side, we've moved them out of the proposed zoning schedule and just kept them as they are. That's the only change that's been made. So I just wanted to let council know that change.
Okay, thanks, Clint. Lindsay, I have one question for you. Do we need an amendment?
No, we can just consider the bylaw as amended, just in the wording like we normally do, yeah.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Barbara, and then Martin.
Through you to Clinton, with the change in the bylaw, would it have gone, or maybe this is for Lindsay, anyone who requested to be notified of decisions or changes that, have been, communicating with the township, have they been notified that, I mean, it's minor. I mean, from the grand scheme of things, I don't have a problem with it. Are we notifying those who have requested to be notified?
So,
I can answer that one if you like.
Sure.
Yeah,
So,
go ahead.
when they make that request, it's not to be notified of when the bylaw comes out, it's when it's approved. So once it's approved, if they've made a request in writing, they get sent the notice of decision and a copy of the bylaw. So that's the request. They don't get the bylaw pre a decision being made. So that's not what that notice is about. Okay.
Thank you. Follow up, Mayor Woodbury. Yeah. So in this case where we're making a change to a bylaw that already came before, and we're adding this to the agenda without proper notice, are we opening ourselves up to, any problems or criticism for not, providing proper notice?
Okay, so first off, this bylaw has never been before council. My planning report came a couple weeks ago. In that it was directed for me to prepare the bylaw and then bring it before council, and that's where we are right now. So this is the first time it's gone. It didn't make this change didn't make the cutoff for our publication for the agenda, but that, as far as notice requirements for the bylaw, that's all been taken care of with the public meeting and all of that sort of thing.
Thanks very much.
Clint, notice isn't required to be sent to agencies and such for when the bylaw is brought forward, just for the public meeting, which has occurred. So there's no issues with any notice being given. This is just a simple amendment like we've done with any other report or bylaw, and it'll be uploaded after. So there's really nothing to appeal.
And to that point, it's not so much notice of a public meeting or notice, just our normal course of providing the full agenda in advance. The only change has been the schedule. I'm fine with it. Just because we added it at the very last minute and, the agenda's already gone out. Thanks.
Yeah, I can appreciate that, and I don't like to do it as well. Unfortunately, the email I got raising this issue came up yesterday, so we tried to deal with it as soon as we can. So that's where we are.
Thanks, Clinton.
Thank you. Martin?
Yeah, Councillor Green asked one of my questions. Would this change from one EP to the other? Is this stock still going to be dark sky compliant? There were complaints about that. So just because everything in the bylaw says dark sky compliant. So I'm assuming this dock is no matter what EP registration is.
Okay.
Well, with the EP zone, it doesn't actually say that in the EP 502 zone anyways.
Okay.
That special zone was actually to allow via site, to basically put site plan control in that area to allow certain small size buildings to be located in that area.
Thank you.
The dark sky compliance will come in with the subdivision agreement for the dock. Assuming it is part of the lands and they want to use it as such, then it's going to be put in the subdivision agreement. And that's a requirement of the conditions of draft plan approval. So.
Yeah, okay, I thought that. Okay, thank you, Clinton. Thank you.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, Clint, could you just comment on, we pushed the dock outside the development area, but can you just report to council about the ownership of this dock being somewhat confusing right now, and that in relation to the subdivision agreement? I think that's important to report on.
Okay, so we received some additional information yesterday by email, which is from the MNRF, and they're of the opinion that the dock is actually owned by the Crown and the lands under the dock. Up until that point, we had information from the applicant and their lawyers and verified through the county lawyers that that was not the case and that it was owned by the applicant. And so that there was a change. And so we attempted to address that now so that we're not going to even worry about that. It'll allow the subdivision to still proceed, and they can sort out the ownership of the dock. Because to be honest, it makes no difference to the functioning of this development, whether the dock is there in that portion or not. So in my opinion, it can still proceed. And that's why I've written it this way. As far as the subdivision agreement has to be written up to address a number of the conditions that are put on this subdivision, and the county is actually going to be potentially amending those conditions if it's found that these lands are in fact Crown-owned land versus owned by the developer. Right now, they've simply asked prior to registration that they get a I forget the term. Basically, a confirmation of the boundary of the lands. Flattow's done that with all of theirs. They basically have to go through this legal process to verify the boundaries of the land in absolute terms. So they've asked them to do that, and assuming they get to work on that right away, I'm hoping there isn't an issue and it can proceed.
Okay, thank you. I'm not seeing any other hands up for comment, so we'll call the question on this. Is anyone opposed? Oh, this is a bylaw. So Lindsay would be opposed to me calling the question. Lindsay, would you like to do the vote, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor Woodbury. So recorded vote for bylaw 2021-137, the zoning bylaw amendment for the Wilder Lake subdivision, and that's as amended. Councillor Shipston?
In favor.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne has declared a conflict of interest. Councillor Crew?
Yes.
Councillor Dobreen?
Yes.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
By a vote of 6-0, that's carried.
Okay, good, thank you. And Brian, you can come on back now, unless you're not there, and then that'd be difficult. There he is. Now, Lindsay, if you would, the motion for 9.2, I guess,
Yes, so that's the, let me get it here. Bylaw 2021-151, Petawawa Biofuel LP assignment and assumption agreement. Alicia, do you have that one up to share your screen? If not, I do.
so I'll need a mover and seconder for that.
Yeah.
So we'll see what the motion says first, and then.
Oh, sorry. So the motion is just the bylaw. So be it resolved that bylaw number 2021-151 being a bylaw to authorize an assignment and assumption agreement between Petawawa Biofuel LP, Southgate Renewables Holdings Corp. And the Corporation of the Township of Southgate be read a first, second, and third time, finally passed, signed by the mayor and the clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and entered into the bylaw book.
Perfect, great, thank you. So mover and seconder, Martin, are you still good to move that? Yeah, who'd like to second that? Oh, Brian, I can see you there. Any discussion on the bylaw?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to say, just to kind of bring a little bit of information, maybe Dave can help me out too, but
Okay.
Petawawa's closing on the property in the Eco Park on Tuesday, so it was a bit of a time crunch, so that's why the late addition to the agenda. But our legal authorized us, or asked us to put this forward to council for approval or for consideration.
Okay. It's been on the table for a long time. So,
yeah.
Barbara.
Thank you. I was getting confused with assumptions and the signs and the signee and the signor, and I went back to the first page to figure out who was who and who's on first. Can you just, is this just a normal bylaw to finalize the sale? Because it just seems very legalese.
Go ahead, Lindsay.
Yeah, Dave's kind of laughing there. It's new to me, I'll be honest, but we've talked through it with our legal, and they're wanting us to forge ahead with it. So
if this is something new, for what purpose does it serve? Is it because there's two Petawawa and Southgate Renewable Holdings? Why is, I guess I'm just trying to figure out why this is so different from other purchases and sales, and why the urgency that it has to be done because they're going to close on Tuesday. Sorry. Educate me.
Go ahead, Dave.
So we turned the original sale to Petawawa over to legal, and during that process, I believe that Petawawa now have an investor and that wants to buy the entity that was being led by Mark, and they want to close and get at it sooner rather than later. So again, some of the things in this, Steve wanted, our lawyer, Steve Christie, wanted us to bring back to council, and these are some of the terms that he wants included. So
that's very helpful. Thanks, Dave.
Okay.
I didn't say we fully understood them. That's why we trust our lawyer to get a PIN number and get it done.
Exactly. Okay. And they're going to be held to the same terms and conditions and building and site plans, anything that moves forward. So Steve Christie has seen it, has given it its blessing. So thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Okay, then Lindsay, would you go ahead, please?
thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote for bylaw 2021-151, the assignment and assumption agreement for Petawawa Biofuel LP. Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
Councillor Shipston?
Yeah, in favor for sure. Yep.
Councillor Dobreen?
In favor.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
By a vote of 7 to 0, that's carried.
Great, thank you. It's good to see them closing, for sure. I didn't receive any notices of motion. Did you, Lindsay? No? Okay.
No.
Does anyone have any notices of motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to
John, if I could, John, I just want to make it clear. I've spoke to the clerk, and I'm retracting my notice of motion regarding the community flagpole. It was gently brought to my attention. We've already paddled this river, and I don't think the banks have changed much. So we're gonna just hold off on that for now. Thank you.
Okay. 11.1, the regular business consent agenda. I didn't receive notice of any of them being pulled. And I don't see anybody jumping up. Oh, Brian, he is jumping up.
I can jump, but I just would be remiss if I didn't comment on the hiring of the asset coordinator and financial analyst. Mr. Desai is going to do a tremendous job for us. I have some acquaintance with him on the county council, but he will do a great job for us. He's a very smart individual, and I'm pleased to see that he's joining the Southgate team.
Yeah. So I better put this out. Moved by Jason and seconded by Barbara. And we didn't have any of them removed. Barbara, go ahead. Oh, Jim Ellis has. Go ahead, Barbara, or do you want to hear Jim first?
Oh, no, I'll hear Jim.
Okay, go ahead, Jim.
I just have an update on the department report there regarding the Drain 75 meeting. I was notified Monday afternoon by RJ Burnsides a request to reschedule the meeting to November 6th, Saturday, November 6th, 9 to 3. And we've confirmed that the outdoor space at the pavilion is still available. So that correction will get updated on the website, but that is at their request for the Drain 75 meeting.
Okay, thanks, Jim. Barbara?
Thank you. So I just wanted to welcome Akash Desai as well. You know, I'm sure that the comments back across the horseshoe, it's probably not a horseshoe right now. I did tune into the county council that he's coming over to the dark side, but I think that he's coming over to the brighter side. And I know that he is going to have his hands full in keeping all of his commitments, but he's definitely capable of juggling all of that. So looking forward to having him on board.
Mm-hmm. And yep, I agree. Any other comments on 11.1 items? Okay, seeing none, is anyone opposed to receiving those? That is carried. Next, moved by Jim and seconded by Jason, the consent correspondence agenda. And I did not get any notification of pulling any of those, but would anyone like to comment on them? Well, I'm not seeing any there. So is anyone opposed to receiving those? Seeing none, that is carried. Next is 11.3, resolutions from other municipalities. I have notice of 2 of them being pulled. 11.3.1 from the town of Kingsville and 11.3.6 from Grey Highlands. So it's moved by Brian and seconded by Barb that we received the rest of them. So are there any comments on any of the ones except for the ones that were pulled? Not seeing any. Is anyone opposed to receiving? Okay, and that's carried. So 11.3.1, Barb, you wanted that pulled. So if you could do your motion and see if we get a seconder.
Thank you. Oh, thank you, Lindsay. I was just going to ask you to put it on screen. Do you want me to read it, Mayor Woodbury, or does everyone just want to read it from the screen?
Can everybody?
I think you should, just for the people on the phone. There's a few people still on the phone.
Yep. Okay.
Oh, okay. Thank you for catching that. So I will read it. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Southgate received the Town of Kingsville Resolution Support of eye care in Ontario for information, and the Council supports this resolution and requests the provincial government recognize the value that access to quality eye care brings to the health of all Ontarians and act now to protect it. And further, that the provincial government address the OHIP insured eye care immediately and enter into legally binding negotiations with Ontario optometrists to fund these services at least to the cost of delivery prior to any job action taking place. And further, that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to Premier Ford, Ontario Minister of Health Christine Elliott, MPP Bill Walker, the Ontario Association of Optometrists, and to the Association of the Municipalities of Ontario.
Okay. Do we have a seconder for that? Martin will second it. Okay. Discussion. Barb, did you want to?
If I may elaborate just briefly,
Yep.
I think the job action has already taken place because I've been contacted by 3 residents who have attempted to get eye appointments. They're all over the age of 65 and they've been refused, citing the dispute with the province. One of these residents was being followed for cataracts, which seem to have ripened, as they use the term. And she can't get a referral to a specialist. She's working on it. And so now her ability to drive at night, her ability to, some of her day-to-day activities are being compromised. And I think that both parties need to get back to the table and come to an agreement so that the health and welfare of all Ontarians can be looked after, because eye care does reveal far more than just whether or not you can see 20/20. It can reveal so many more other things. So thank you, Council, for considering this motion.
Okay, thank you. And I think there's a big problem here when professionals like optometrists withhold their services. So I think that's also a big issue.
It really is huge.
Any other questions or comments on this? Martin?
Yeah, on a personal note, over the years, I have had a lot of elderly clients, and with the age in Grey Bruce, you know, that's becoming a factor. So it'd be very hindsighted of the government not to go back into considerations and talks with the optometrists. And a good point that Councillor Green mentioned, a lot of the eye issues are just effects of other things like diabetes. Diabetes can cause cataracts. So to withhold that from elderly people, it could also hold up other possibly life-threatening situations that emanate from a cataract. So I think this is well worthwhile to send, and yeah, I'm in full favor of it. So.
Okay, any other comments? Not seeing any. Myself, I will not support this motion. I think it's picking sides. I think if we were to do something different where we went after the Ontario optometrists as well, because they're the ones withholding service on some people. And I think that is despicable, if to say the least. You know, the province should be funding this, in my opinion, but I don't believe that we should be picking sides, especially to push them back to professionals that are doing the job action like this. So I do like the sentiment, Barb, but I don't like picking sides in an argument, and especially when one or both of the sides isn't playing fair, in my opinion. So any other questions or comments? Okay. So this, is anyone opposed to this motion besides I am, but is anyone else? Brian?
Mayor.
Should we,
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, could we have a recorded vote, please?
Yes, please.
Absolutely. Lindsay, go ahead.
Thank you. Recorded vote for consent, resolutions of other municipality consent item 11.3.1, Town of Kingsville, support of eye care in Ontario. Councillor Rice?
No.
Councillor Shipston? You're muted, Councillor Shipston.
Yes.
Mayor Woodbury?
No.
Councillor Shearson?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Nay.
Councillor Dobreen?
Yeah.
Councillor Frew?
Oh.
By a vote of 4-3, that is lost.
Okay, thank you. Next, 11.3.6. So Barb, if you'd like to look at that.
Thank you. With regard to, I'll read it first and get it on the table. Be it resolved that the Council of the Township Associate received the correspondence from the Municipality of Grey Highlands for information, and that Council directs staff to contact the Ministry of the Attorney General to seek assistance in implementing an additional level of licensing which would permit small organizations to hold fundraisers as a method of sustaining our community and organizations, and that Council directs staff to forward this resolution to the Association of Municipalities of Ontario and all Ontario municipalities to seek their assistance in lobbying the ministry.
Okay, and do I have a seconder for that?
Jim Prue has his hand up.
Oh, does he? Okay. Sorry, Jim, didn't see you there, so Jim will second it. And Barb, would you like to make some comments?
If I could just elaborate, I know that not-for-profit organizations do have the ability to hold raffles and apply for a lottery license through the township. Where that falls into the difficulty is small towns like Southgate have a tremendous amount of community spirit where they will organize things like the Dundalk Halloween Fest or an Easter egg hunt or the Santa Claus Parade. And because they're organized by volunteers and not a not-for-profit organization, they can't technically run a raffle to raise funds for the candy that they're going to hand out. They can't, hold an auction to fundraise for, I don't know, whatever they're trying to fundraise for, which all then falls to the regular businesses and individuals to pick up the slack. So I would just like to see a little bit more flexibility, and maybe that exists that I'm not aware of, but that's why I'm bringing this forward, just so that our community and the heart of our communities can keep on going and keep on providing all of those events and special activities that bring our people together. Thanks for your consideration.
Okay, any other comments or questions? Not seeing any. The only comment or question I have is Tay Valley Township resolution. We don't know what that is, but you're asking us to support somebody that's supporting their resolution. Do you have that or the contents of that so that we know actually what we're supporting?
I intentionally left that out, that we're supporting the correspondence from Grey Highlands, but the direction is specifically to find out more and lobby the ministry to create this additional level of licensing.
Okay, I just would like more information on it because it is supporting Grey Highlands resolution, and I believe it probably is a good one, but their resolution does support Tay, so I'm just not sure what I'm supporting. Brian?
That's a good point, John, but my point here was, would it not be better if we're going to lobby somebody as a municipality, should we not be taking the political route and asking the mayor to write to the minister and copy Bill Walker and lobby that way? Because I mean, the provincial staff are only going to do what their political masters direct them to do. So if we want something changed at the legislative level, then we should be lobbying the politicians, in my mind. That's just my thought. I mean, I support the premise here, but I think it's being gone about the wrong way. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or questions? Martin? And then Barb. You did it just perfect. You had your microphone on and you shut it off.
Yeah, it's getting late. I wasn't going to pull this, but I was certainly going to put it up for discussion just to talk about, and it seems there is some discussion about it. Years ago with my career as an artist and a painter, I had to deal with the Alcohol and Gaming Ontario. Their tendrils reach very far into the community. And for what I wanted to do, they were quite insistent of me doing certain things that cost me money, which took away the whole idea. And I was in favor of this, but I really like Brian's idea, Deputy Mayor Mills' idea, that John, if you're supportive of the idea, let's cut the chafe. Let's go right to the body and talk to the minister of the alcohol and gaming. Say, why not? Do we not have this going? Because quite a while ago, something came up for me, and Dave, the CAO said, well, this has already been gone. It's only going to get to a certain level. But if John, if you're willing to write a letter, if you're in support of this, then I'm behind that. I think I'll still vote for this, but would there be something on your part there? Because I think this is a very appropriate letter, resolution to come from another municipality, whether we see Tay Valleys or not. But I think it's a very timely resolution, especially when we have been talking about teen town halls, community fundraising projects. So I think this could go very well in hand. But, would you be willing, John, to take time to send a letter to the Gaming Commission to cut through the red tape and go higher and say this would be a good thing for small towns?
Oh, absolutely. We just need to lay out what council wishes us to be asking about more specifically. Dave has a comment here, and then we'll get to Barb.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the beauty of virtual meetings is I can talk like this without getting hit. I'm sure the clerk would be happy to look into this further and work with the mayor at getting more information about the other resolution, and let's do a fulsome letter and figure out a position that we can send to Bill Walker and so on, and the ministry.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my comment.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Barb, you've got Martin's.
Lindsay has her hand up, and I'd like to hear from Lindsay, because what I can do is I can either withdraw this and have something come back, or we can massage and change it. I did work with Lindsay to craft this, so I'd like to hear from Lindsay.
Okay, Lindsay.
Yeah, I'm thinking we could just amend the motion to maybe just have a clause to receive it as information, and that council or that staff work with the mayor to bring back some more information, or to draft a letter, just make it a little more concise than it is now.
That would be wonderful.
Yep. So, do you need movers and seconders for an amendment, or do we just go with the originals?
No, the originals are fine. We'll just get new wording. So I'm thinking they'll receive it for information, that council directs staff to bring forward more information on, I'm trying to think here.
May I help?
Yeah, go ahead.
To bring more information regarding additional levels of licensing. I think that section that would permit small organizations to hold fundraisers as a method of sustaining our community, back to what we had, in support of the mayor, in support of correspondence to be sent by the mayor.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think how that would be worded. I'm just trying to make it simple, that council.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So are there any more comments, or?
I think, Lindsay, you have permit small organizations to hold fundraisers as a method of sustaining our community and organizations was the original clause, other than
Which works.
contacting Ministry of Attorney, and that, and I think when you bring back, you understand that we're aiming for a mayoral letter as opposed to just sending a resolution to the minister. So I'm good with that.
Yeah, this is fine. It's simple enough. I was sorry for the pause. I was just trying to think of what to make it so it was simple, but no, I know to bring it back, and then it'll come from the mayor. So that's fine with me if that's fine with you.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sounds great.
Yep. Okay, any other discussion on this? Seeing none. Anybody opposed to this motion? And that is carried. Thanks for bringing that forward, Barb. We don't have any closed session stuff for as far as consent. County report, we met in person last week with plexiglass between us and masks and all kinds of stuff. It was a good meeting. I think one of the main things is that the nursing program that is going into Georgian is a go, and the county committed $1 million towards it, and so we'll be having people that are able to local as well as coming from other areas to train here, to work in the hospital as part of the program, all kinds of things, and the studies apparently show that when they go to school in an area, a lot of times they like to stay in that area. So looks like we'll be keeping them. That was the main thing. Brian, I don't know if there's any other big thing that you'd like to mention. That was it. Okay. So yeah, it was good seeing people in that again. Members privilege. I think everybody's pretty privileged. Barb.
Just to let everyone know that there is a group in Dundalk organizing a Halloween fest. They have partnered with White Rose and Junction Community Initiatives, as well as downtown businesses and other individuals, to bring a day of trick-or-treating. The Youth Action Committee is putting together some teen packs to be distributed for teens who show up in costume at the library. And they're also holding a scary movie night at the Pavilion Saturday evening for teens. And so there's lots of activity going to be happening on Saturday, the 30th.
Okay, thanks. Lindsay, you have something?
Yeah, if there was no one else, I was just going to add that there's a vaccine clinic tomorrow night in Dundalk. It was advertised originally to be at the Dundalk Arena, but that is changed. It's the Frank McIntyre, just in case of weather and because hockey has now started at the arena, but it was advertised incorrectly, unfortunately, but it has been updated. We've been trying to share that, but it's at the Frank Mac tomorrow, 3 to 7, I believe.
Yeah, it is 3 to 7. Yep. So, Brian.
Just real quickly, John, the Markdale Hospital Foundation kicked off their fundraising campaign for the new hospital up there. I won't go into the reasons why they need a new campaign, but there's been changes over the past 20 years, as you can well imagine. So the original fund is not as big as they thought it would be. And so they need a new campaign, and they kicked it off last, what day was that, John? Was that Saturday?
Saturday, yep.
Saturday, yes, Saturday. It was a really crappy day, but it was a really good event, and everybody I think had a good time. And so I would encourage the community to watch for events going forward to support that new hospital.
Absolutely, yep. We're doing good with healthcare in the south end of Grey County. Anyone have anything else? Okay, not seeing any. Oh, Mark.
Yeah, just piggybacking on something Lindsay said with the time change and site change for the vaccination clinic, because the arena is starting hockey again. I think that's good news. And a shout out to Ethan for being so diligent in getting all the hockey programs for the little wee ones who've never put skates on to the older kids who are just going around. So that is good news for the community. And yeah, just picking up on that. So we are blessed, John, like you said before. We are very privileged. So we're all good.
Yep, good. Well, I'm not seeing any more, so we will go with a motion moved by Martin, seconded by Jim. It's the confirming bylaw. And if there's no discussion on that, I don't see anybody jumping up to discuss the confirming bylaw. We'll let Lindsay do the vote.
Thank you, Mayor Woodbury. Recorded vote called for the confirming bylaw. Councillor Green?
Yeah.
Councillor Shipston?
In favor?
Councillor Frew?
Yes.
Councillor Shearston?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Milne?
Yay.
Mayor Woodbury?
Yes.
Councillor Rice?
Yes.
By a vote of 7-0, that's carried.
Great, thank you. And Michael, I don't know what connection you got up there, but you made it through the whole meeting, and that's better than we've done with some of the connections down here. So.
Oh, true.
Yeah, so enjoy yourself.
It looks like you
this
could.
back room is freezing cold. Maybe that's why it worked.
I was going to say, it
see
looks
your
like you
breath
could turn
out
the
here.
furnace up a bit.
Yeah.
Last
Now
year
there's
was
dedication.
-20, so no snow anyway.
There's
Yep.
dedication for you, Southgate councillor. Yep.
I'm moose hunting and still making the meeting. Yep, that's good news. Okay, now
Anyway.
we have the motion moved by Brian that we
Yay.
adjourn it at 9:51. Anyone want a recorded vote? No, not seeing any.
Sure.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate
Right
it.
on.
Night.
Thank
Everyone
you.
keep safe.
Yep.
Night.
Night.